Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm happy to introduce you to today's guest, author and family physician, Nicole Swiner, MD. She is also a wife, mother of two, and she lives in North Carolina, and she loves taking care of the family as a whole from the cradle to the grave. Her interests include minority health, women's health, and pediatrics. For her undergraduate education, she attended Duke University and went to medical school at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. She's lived in the Triangle since finishing residency at the University of North Carolina and continues teaching medical students and residents as an adjunct assistant professor with the university's family medicine department. While she's not treating patients at Durham Family Medicine, she's speaking in the community, writing, or spending time with her family. Her passion is making medicine plain to her patients so that all people from all walks of life can understand how to take better care of themselves and their family. And we have a story for you. Welcome, Doc Swiner.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Tammy.
Thanks. I'm really excited to talk to you. You have written some books that really resonated with me. How to avoid the Superwoman Complex
Right.
and how to avoid the Superwoman Complex follow-up visit. And what fascinated me was the subhead, it was 12 ways to balance mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
Can you give me a little bit about your background, about how you came from being this family doctor to being a business boss?
A business boss. Yeah. So I was kind of thrown into this whole world of business. I didn't grow up or go to school thinking I was ever really going to own a business or, start my own entrepreneurial journey. In medical school, unfortunately, well, now it's a little bit different, but about, 10 years ago, we didn't get a lot of business training as medical doctors. You learn the medicine, you learn how to a little bit deal with the insurance companies and learn about all of that, but you really don't get business experience. At least when I was in school, you didn't get it unless you sought it out. And thankfully, I think students nowadays know that more. And so some of them are getting their MBAs while getting their MDs or doing business courses while they're getting their medical degree. And that's great. But when I got out of medical school and residency, I said, I'm probably going to end up, working for a hospital or maybe a nice, community practice and do my thing and be happy. But when I started working here in Durham, fresh out of residency, loving my job, loving my patients, having a great time, the hospital that owned us decided that we weren't really making the profit that they wanted us to make, honestly. And so they ended up coming down with the decision that they were going to close our doors after about, the practice before I joined had probably been in business for about 10, 11 years. And I've been working, now at that point for about 3 years. And they said, okay, we're going to shut down the doors. We're going to move you all, you'll have a job. We'll move you to these fancier practices that we have in these more metropolitan areas, and you'll be fine and your patients will be fine. And, we were a little disappointed. We said, the practice has been here. We've been seeing our patients for a decade. We had about 8,000 to 10,000 patients that we were serving at the time. And I said, what's going to happen to them? And so long story short, we decided, okay, there are private practices. They do exist. We know it's hard, but we love our community and love our population of patients enough that we want to learn the business of medicine. We want to learn how to run a practice independently, and we could do it. It was 4 of us at the time that decided to get together and do it. And thankfully, we're 8 years running strong. It's been a journey. We have hired some good business-minded folks like a management company and my husband who has started his own business by the time we met before we even got married. So who knew how important his knowledge would be for me as a private practice owner when we got married. But I kind of we learned as we went, and we finally feel like, okay, we know how to do this. So that was kind of the first start of my entrepreneurial journey. And let me know if you'd like me to go on with the book stuff.
Well, actually, yes, because I think it's important that people understand, like you said, not everybody gets trained in business. You were trained to be a doctor.
Right.
And there you found yourself having to make this decision. Do I want to work for somebody else and go do what they tell me to do? Or do I want to take this step of faith and serve the people I've grown to love in my own community?
Exactly.
So, yes, I'm very interested in hearing more.
Yeah, so that you're absolutely right. It was absolutely a step out on faith. There was lots of prayer involved. Like, what are we going to do? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to pick the insurances for the staff? Who's going to do that? But I think it was just the right time for things. Sometimes when you're not ready, God is ready, and He just thrusts you into it, and gives you the right people, gives you the right answers that you need at the time. So it was scary, but we learned a lot. We have learned a lot, and we're still learning at this point and doing pretty well, which is great. So then I think once you have an experience like that in your career in business, after getting over that hump and realizing, okay, we didn't sink, we're swimming. I think it makes you less fearful to do other things. So while we were doing this thing with the private practice and trying to reestablish ourselves and rebrand, I said, okay, well, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to go meet some folks, do some church fairs and networking and all of that. And while I was doing that, I met the editor of a local paper here called the Triangle Tribune, and, shook her hand and was introducing myself. And I said, you know what? I kind of like to write a little bit. I did some journaling when I was younger, and I kind of, keep a diary and all that. I would love to maybe do some medical writing for the community if you have a need for that. She said, sure. And that kind of started, I didn't know at that point, but that started my book writing desires and career. So, with blogging and with writing for that paper every couple of weeks, I learned that I like to write in my voice. I write the way that I speak to patients. I try to speak plain English in terms of medicine so people can understand. And I was getting good feedback online and became familiar with social media. I didn't really like Facebook or anything like that at the beginning, but my husband said, okay, you're a business owner now. You have to get out there and market, and it's free. Why not? And now I'm addicted. So it's his fault.
So when you met the editor of that, I guess it was a physical newspaper and an online newspaper.
Yes.
So I think you said the magic word, which was fear. And many people, they never think about that. But local newspapers, local radio, local publications, they're always looking for expert advisors. And
That's
often
right.
They'll say, sure, write up 500 words or 1,000 words and send it to me, and we'll have a column. I did it. I was a newspaper editor, and I probably launched many careers by having that conversation just like you did. So how many articles did you write before it became clear to you that, hey, I think I have a book?
It was years. I did not have a book in mind, probably 5 to 6 years in. Because, I was happy getting a little bit of, they gave me a little, a couple of dollars for gas money to write the articles. And I thought that was cool. And people were recognizing my name in the community and inviting me to come to their functions and events to do small speaking things. So I was content. But once I, became more familiar with social media, I joined some organizations or some groups on social media, which is, you have to do that, in business. You have to join interest groups. That's how we met, Tammy. We met by being part of the same interest group on Facebook. But after seeing that and seeing other medical colleagues around me publishing books and other people in general, particularly people that were self-publishing, I said, that's interesting. How can I reuse all of this stuff? I've been writing at least once or twice per month for years. And so I said, well, how can I reuse this? How can I spread this word? How can I, broaden my reach? And I said, I'm going to write a book. Like, it literally one day I woke up and a light bulb went off. Like, that's how it was. But it took years. I didn't think about it until years later.
I think something that is really interesting about what you're saying is a lot of people don't realize they already have the content for a book because they have been participating in either social media or even way back in the day when it was typewritten.
That's
Believe
right.
me, I used to get handwritten articles that I would have to type in and edit.
That's right.
But today everything is digital, but people, they often will write in their Facebook posts, they write in LinkedIn, maybe they have a blog. So you are, I guess, an example of someone who stepped back, and it sounds like your husband helped a lot in encouraging you.
He did.
Stepped back and you saw a bigger possibility. And of course, as you know, and this is just for those of you, if you're not familiar with the world of what is called content marketing, content online is king. And if you are someone who writes, like Doc Swiner is, you actually probably have a book or two.
That's right.
Out there. Tell us a little more about your books that you've written and your themes.
So once I decided, okay, I'll write a book. Let's see how that works. I went back and looked at some of the blogs and some of the articles that I previously posted, and a lot of them already had the theme of minority and women's health. And while all this was going on, my husband and I had gotten married. We were starting a family. The private practice was starting. So all of these transitions were happening in my personal life. So I kind of combined the things that I'd already written, about different elements of health. And the first book, has a lot of so-called random topics like allergies and high blood pressure and, chronic cough, things you wouldn't even really attribute or associate with the Superwoman Complex. But all of them have to do with mind, body, and spirit as a whole. So I took those things that I wrote from a medical perspective and combined them with some things that I learned either on my own personal journey, becoming a mom. At the point of the first book, I'd had my first child and was getting ready to was pregnant with my second child. So going through some of the stressors, going through some of the how do we do it all? And then talking to patients who I have a large majority of my patients are either young women or young families, and seeing them going through some similar things with stressors and ending up coming to me talking about their stress, their depression, their insomnia, their chronic pain, their headaches, and realizing, what? I think a lot of this is a common theme with the majority of women. We're trying to do it all. We're trying to be Superwoman. And I said, aha. Let's write about that. Let's include that, because as a family doc, I can associate almost any disease, any medical condition, any mental health condition to stress, to trying to do it all, to being a Superwoman or Superman. But it was interesting how my life and my journey paralleled that of many of my patients. And we may deal with things in a different way or cope with things in a different way, but we're all dealing with a little bit of that same underlying stress of just trying to manage everyone and everything in our lives. And then at the end of the day, often neglecting ourselves. So that's what the Superwoman Complex is about. And that's what I like to talk about.
It's really interesting because I know at one point in my life, I actually counted all of the things I needed to do, and I came up with like 23. I needed to be
In a
23
day?
people to be a mom, to do the house cleaning, to go to work. I was going to
Right.
school. I was trying, I mean, I was like the ultimate of juggling, and it led me, I actually ended up with the stomach issues because, I was just overstressed. But I think about the Superwoman complex, and like you said, even the Superman complex, but we're focusing on women because women seem to, it's a sense of responsibility that I know, especially when you have children, it's like you will put yourself on the back burner because you are focusing on making sure that those children have everything they need, and you're hoping that you're doing the right thing so they grow up to be good people. And that leads to all kinds of things. In your follow-up visit book, what did you expand on in the second book?
So the second book is going to print as we speak. So It will be out. It will be out in the next month or so. But the first book, How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex, which is available on Amazon, by the way. But we'll talk about that later. But it like I said, it breaks down a lot of different, what you would even consider maybe random medical things, but then ties it all in together with the Superwoman, the theme of women trying to take care of everyone, do everything, and medical issues that can either be associated with or caused by the Superwoman complex. The follow-up visit is more of a handbook on, okay, we know we have it, it exists, now what are we going to do about it? So since the first book came out, I've been doing some speaking and some teaching and, doing things at conferences about it. But I've gotten a little bit more clear on, okay, so I've learned some lessons along the way about how to make life a little bit easier, how to take better care of yourself, how to be more self-aware. So now I'm going to share these secrets a little bit in more detail. So now it's a little more focused on, okay, not only we now know what the Superwoman complex means, and here are the signs and symptoms, but now here are some ways to truly, make life easier for yourself.
Great. Well, since I have you in person here, can you give us maybe just a little taste of what, one or two examples of what you can do to help yourself not. I mean, to me, I actually saw one of your T-shirts with the big no Superwoman, and so maybe give me just a couple examples, a taste of what somebody could learn from reading your second book.
Well, my big three are pretty consistent in both books. My number one is sleep. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Actually, it's the first chapter in the first book. It's called Sweet Sleep. Get rest. Because so many of us, there's this cute meme I saw literally within the last day or so that said there's a such thing as I think a mom zombie or a mombie. Have you seen that? And the definition is a mom who is super exhausted but still stays up all night because it's the only kid-free time she gets. Go to sleep. Don't be a mom bee or mom zombie. Go to sleep because you have to rejuvenate yourself. You have to let your mind and your body rest, or there are, dire consequences. So some way, somehow figure out how to get better rest. And I go into detail a lot in the book about the problems that can cause insomnia or reasons why you might have insomnia and ways to fix it. That's always number one. Number two is ask for help. A lot of superwomen or power women, as we were talking about earlier before the broadcast, we often feel like, not only can we do it all, but we feel guilty for asking for help, or we feel that it's a sign of weakness, or that it will be used against us if we ask anyone to help. And that's just not true. I mean, there are very rare cases where there are evil people in your circle that will expect something from you or use it against you later if you ask them to pick something up quick. If they're going to the store, pick something up that you need really quick, or become part of a drop-off team so that you can share picking up and dropping off your kids to certain activities. Or if you need someone to, come vacuum real quick, I have wonderful employees at my practice that are young and don't have kids and want a little bit of extra gas money. They love to come and, kind of tidy up my playroom or babysit or, ask for little pieces of breaks that you can just sit and breathe. You mentioned the 23 things on your list. It's almost impossible to get those things done without feeling burnt out. So, ask people to help. Ask the hubs to cook a couple of times a week. So that gives you a little bit of a break. It's okay. And then my last and my favorite, which is probably the most difficult one, is to learn to say no. How powerful is that? Do you say no well?
Let's just say that I try to not put myself into situations where I don't have to, I just can't lie. I have trouble saying no.
So hard. It's so hard.
But it's, I love what you're saying. So get rest, get sleep. Don't stay up all night. So get rest, and you tell people some tips on how to actually get some sleep. Ask for help and learn how to say no. I think the learn how to say no in my own life, I sleep pretty well.
Good.
And I probably don't ask for help as much as I should, but I think the third one, saying no, like, did you see my hear my reaction?
Yeah,
I was like, oh my goodness, she caught me, because that is one of the hardest things that we have to do, because there's just so much happening. And I want to go back and talk more about your success as a blogger, social media person, and a writer, and maybe ask you for some tips about how anyone can use these tools, because your husband said it. Hey, it's free.
It's free.
And there are, and as we know, there are free, and then there are things that free equals time.
Right.
But it doesn't take cash out of your pocket, which is the truth. So if you can maybe give some of our listeners some tips about how you developed into who you are today, which you have a thriving medical practice and also a publishing business. So maybe if you can give us a few tips about that, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Now, and I understand everyone's situation is different, but, I'm blessed to have control over my schedule. If you work for someone, you may not be able to do that as easily. But definitely look at your schedule and see where you might be able to carve out some time for those special interests, or if you're starting a new business that you want to develop, but you still need to work that main job as your bread and butter, which I completely understand, until hopefully that side gig becomes your main gig. Carve out some time as much as you can. So if you can ask for a half day, a day off, or administrative time, or, first thing Saturday morning before the kids get up, you get up and carve out that time, carve out some time to do it. Because as you said, it's free, but it does take time and effort. But once you get it going and get your routine going with social media and know when to post and how to post, it does become quite easy. So what I did over time, once the book came out, excuse me, once I was speaking, once I was doing some broadcasting on Periscope and all that, what my hope at some point is to do medicine part-time. But for now, I take Fridays off, like today. While I'm here at home, I can do Doc Swiner stuff. But if there's a way that you can maybe cut back a little bit or carve out some specific time for your special interest so that you can plan your posts, you can do live broadcasting or do podcasts like Miss Tammy is doing, make it a priority. So you say, okay, I'm going to really try to do this. I want to get 1,000 followers by whatever month. So I'm really, excuse me, Miss Tammy, I'm drinking some water like you did. I'm really going to get serious about this as a business. So that's one. Number two, you don't have to be overwhelmed by doing all of these things at one time. There are 1,000,001, seemingly, ways to be on social media, whether it's Facebook and Instagram and using Skype and periscoping. I would say pick your favorite three. And I think I looked at a Forbes list recently that said the big three are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you pick those three and become, proficient in those three, then that's a great start. And I would say at least post once daily, if not more than once. But once if you're going to get your feet wet, post once at least daily on each of those three to really broaden your reach. The third little tip that I like to tell people about is there are these websites and systems that you can become a member of, whether, you can do it for free or you can purchase their, program, where you can manage all of your social media from one place. I don't know if Miss Tammy, do you do like Hootsuite or any of the other types of social media control systems?
I have used Hootsuite, and I've also tried, Post Planner. There are many really good programs, BuzzFeed. There are many different ways, and it's all about education. Right. And like you said, if you carve out some time, even let's say that you are working what I call a job, you can carve out educational time. For example, if you're driving back and forth to work, I used to have an hour and a half commute each way. Wow. I would either listen to podcasts or information on CDs. That really dates me but I would be instead of listening to the top 40, I would be listening to educational type material, and almost every car in the future will have iTunes built into it. Whether you want it or not, you're going to have the ability to listen to educational podcasts like this one. Right. And like you said, using these automation tools is important. The big thing about automation, of course, is to choose one that works for you and find some time. When I first started, I actually worked full time, and it took me 6 months before I was able to go full time in what I do, which is social media marketing. That's what I started out doing back in 2009. So I really do think you're absolutely right. Carve out the time, get the automation tools. And I think what Doc Swiner does that is phenomenal, and she mentioned it, doing the live video broadcasts on Periscope or Facebook Live or Blab or Google Hangouts, whatever it is, but getting in front of people is huge. Then she did the ultimate. She wrote a book. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how writing a book changed your life.
So, there are, some of us who are lucky enough to have a huge publishing company to come and give you $1 million to write a book. But there are most of us who end up self-publishing and using your book for different purposes. So I think the book has been a major help in my blossoming speaking career. So now I'm doing the speaking thing, and I want to do that seriously and professionally, so that it can, like I said, my goal is to be able to do medicine part-time and do this, more than part-time, because now it's become a passion. My book has served as my business card. It served as my resume. It gets my foot in the door a little bit easier. I had a pretty good presence, as a doc in the community, but now I'm a doc and an author, and people see you more as an expert on that topic. So I think it's tremendous, especially if you're trying to switch careers, if you want to do speaking, and do a lot of those things professionally. You almost have to have a book nowadays to get your foot in the door.
Right. It makes a huge difference. Do you have any speaking engagements coming up?
I do. I will be, let's see, the one that I'm traveling for in August is in Oklahoma City. It's a friend of mine named Wywana Montgomery, who's another Duke grad, and she has a phenomenal organization for women and young women named Reach Forward. She does a No Fear Women's Conference every year. And I'm blessed to be returning. This will be my second time presenting there. And that is in August. And I'm very excited about that. If you go to my Doc Swiner Facebook page, I have the date and the flyer and all that. If you happen to be in the area, that'd be great.
Oh, so, yeah. That sounds phenomenal. So tell me, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I am easily findable on Doc Swiner. Here's my shirt. DocSwiner.com is my main website, and it's being updated as we speak. On Facebook, I try to use Doc Swiner almost everywhere to be consistent. That's another social media tip, by the way. I just want to let me throw that out. So whenever you figure out how to be on social media, try to be consistent so people know how to find you easily. So that was a freebie. But so DocSwiner.com is my main website. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'm Doc Swiner, DocSwiner. I have the book available on my website. I also have it available through Amazon. And we've launched our No Superwoman store, which is an easy place to get the books. You can pre-order the second book, A Follow-Up Visit, is coming out this summer. On the long name is the No Superwoman store.bigcartel.com. If that's too long for you, you can use the bit.ly. Bit.ly shortens your URLs. So it's http://bit.ly, bit.ly/Doc Swiner's store. So that's a little bit easier to remember.
Doc Swiner's store on bit.ly. Great.
Yeah, with two S's, by the way. Doc Swiner's store. Yeah. So catch.
So go to DocSwiner.com. That's the main website. Tell me, you intrigued me with your T-shirts. And so tell me a little bit about the Doc Swiner, I guess, product line that you come up with. That is an entrepreneurial idea. Not only is she a speaker, an author, fearless entrepreneur, but she's also created branding for her books and her T-shirts. That's $1 million idea right there. Tell me more about that.
Again, I blame my husband. My husband, who is, I think, a marketing genius. So he has his own graphic web design, photo and production company called Spider Marketing. And he, about a year ago, launched a T-shirt portion of that company called Code Switch. And so I watched him, like literally behind me here in the basement. He has, equipment to press T-shirts, and he's designed them and printed and all that stuff. So while I was making the book, I said, I would come downstairs and watch him. I said, I want a T-shirt too. That would be cool. And then from meeting people, from networking, from seeing my colleagues, other folks who had written books, when you go to conferences and go to events and you want to sell your book, it's nice to also have something else to sell, just in case maybe, they don't want to read a book, but you'll rock your T-shirt. They'll represent for you with your T-shirt. So the first T-shirt that came out, and you'll see it on the site, is the No Superwoman. So it's a symbol, the circle with the slash for no and Superwoman on it. That was the first idea for branding. And then as I tried to, I decided I wanted to turn this into a career and do speaking and all that, we branded it so it was more kind of a generic Doc Swiner. So that's where the Doc Swiner T came out. It has my favorite saying on the back that we came up with. We said, you don't have to be Superwoman in order to be a superwoman. So that we're don't stress yourself out all the time. So that's where those two ideas came out. The most recent thing I came up with was a Superwoman sleep serum. Did you see that, Tammy?
No, I didn't. I just saw the Superwoman, and I saw your photo, and I was just like, woo, this woman knows who she is. That's what that photo said to me. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Like opening up your shirt coming out. So crazy idea. My assistant Amy she has her own side gig where she makes organic hand, body, and facial products from home. So she mixes them up and puts natural ingredients in them. I treat a lot of patients, as I mentioned, with insomnia and sleep issues and hormonal issues. I said, Amy, you're making these body creams and these wonderful emollients for the face and the body. I said, what if we came up with our own sleep recipe? So, you have your stuff where you put shea butter, coconut oil, lavender and all that. But, there are natural things that can help sleep like lavender and like melatonin, for instance, evening primrose oil, if you've heard of these things. And you can get these things naturally from the store and they occur naturally in the body and can act like hormones and sleep hormones. I said, what if we found those organically, put them into a liquid, put them into a lotion, a cream, and people can use it on their body? Brilliant. She went online, purchased the organic products, made it in her kitchen. And that's what we've been, giving and selling now. It's called Superwoman Sleep Serum. And I will say we've gotten rave reviews about how it feels good on the skin. You can put it on from head to toe and it helps you to rest better. We've been really pleased. So that's the newest thing on the online store. I'm really excited about that.
Well, that's really phenomenal. And I think our big message today, and it goes back into every single thing that you've said, you've talked about how you started out in the medical profession, not ever thinking about being an entrepreneur, but yet you found that you needed to become an entrepreneur. You stepped out in faith, you stepped out, and even though there was fear to step out, you did it anyway, and it's kind of like, woo, and you flew.
That's right.
And you have shown that you can just take simple steps to improve your life and to promote yourself. And I think that everyone listening should really, go take a look at Doc Swiner's website, and you'll see that despite the super anti-superwoman, she does have this power that exudes, and you'll see it in the imaging. And when you read her books, I think you'll really get that sense of where she's coming from and everything. So I'm really, really glad that we had this opportunity to touch base and have this good conversation. And just to let you know, I'm going to be inviting you back because I'm sure there are many things we can talk about that will help our listeners. And I'm very interested in staying on top of your Superwoman series, because I have a feeling that book number 1, book number 2, that there's going to be a book number 3 that is going to continue on this theme and help people with their journeys as they understand that you don't have to be a superwoman if you do Doc Swiner's advice. Get rest, ask for help. And what was your third piece of advice?
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I enjoyed it.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a great day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.